maybe you could explain what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, so I'm financial controller at Dolphin Living Group, as you mentioned. And so my responsibilities cover reporting from management accounts to annual accounts, and getting them through external audit. It extends to controls in the system, making sure they're observed, so that everything is done as it should be. And quite often there'll be some elements of innovation in terms of how can we do things better, which is why I get involved in implementation of accounting software and looking at how we can use it to the best of our ability.
Wonderful. That sounds great. Could you tell me more about how financials fits into your daily workflow?
Yes, so financials is our main account system, so everything goes through it really. So everything from payments to any money coming in or going out will all go through there, and it keeps our cost records. And we also have very big projects. We quite often have big housing developments that we're working on, and we need to keep track of all the costs we spent on there. So it records all of those as well. So all of the costs go in there. But in addition, obviously we need it to help us run our controls as well. So there are certain elements where the rules set in Access drive how people actually get things done within the business, and make sure we're doing it in a way that I can, firstly, be confident they're doing things properly, and secondly, I can demonstrate this as well.
Okay, that sounds good. You did mention that everything that you do essentially goes through financials. So I would appreciate that you use quite a lot of the features. But then would you be able to give me a breakdown of like the top features that you use most frequently?
Okay, I mean, I think one of the big things that's been a benefit to us is the purchase ordering system. We'd had all sorts of problems before with this, and effectively have been using a spreadsheet to control purchase orders and what's been delivered against them. We're relying on people to make the system work, and as good as people are, they're not always they'll make a mistake eventually, no matter how good. So we use the purchase ordering system, and particularly the rules embedded in it, to help us run these things. We have, as a charity, we have quite strict governance rules, and we're very keen to make sure we are following these rules. And management and the board spend quite a lot of time designing these rules. So we use, as I said, the purchase ordering system to make sure that all the approval limits that are set for any transaction must be followed for a purchase order to be raised. And as I said, we can be completely confident that if, say, the CEO, if it's reached a limit that the CEO has to approve it, that it's gone to the CEO, and we can demonstrate that the CEO received it and approved it. And if she doesn't, then it just doesn't get approved and no payment can go out. So we use that purchase ordering side of it quite a lot. A second thing we use quite a lot is the VAT side of the system, because many of our supplies are what is called VAT exempt, and some aren't. We have a partial recovery of VAT. It all gets quite complex mathematically. And what the system has enabled us to do is, instead of trying to do this in a spreadsheet outside the system just calculates it for each transaction by having a VAT code that says we can reclaim X percentage of this. And what it also enables us to do, which is quite interesting, is if we then recalculate that percentage, we can go back and change it historically. And then that irrecoverable VAT gets costed against the cost that's actually driven it, which again is very important, so people understand what the real costs of what they're doing actually is.
That sounds like, yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other functionality, the segmental nature of the normal ledger codings has proved very useful. So we're using that to give us greater detail in terms of our transactions. We've broken it down into what is the source of the cost, i.e. is it someone phoning up and asking for a repair, is it a planned repair, is it something that's come from an inspection? So that would have that feature, and then we'd have the nature of it as well, and then we'd have what was actually done. Did we replace something? Did we repair something? So it just, all these extra pieces of information that we need, it's given us an ability to report on all of those individually by segmenting the normal ledger code, and so we can record all of these things.
Okay, so I take it all of these elements come together under the guise of accuracy, after all, right? It's very important in your field of work.
And analysis as well. I mean, it's understanding, to some extent in our organization, understanding what's driving your costs, why are costs up. When I first got here, quite often what would happen is people would say, oh, this cost has gone up, why is that? And they'd say, well, it might be because of, we've been doing more inspections or something like that, but they didn't know. And the accuracy element comes from actually knowing that this is what has actually happened. So when someone comes up with something like that and they say, oh, well, we've had more inspections, I can go and look and say either yes, look, or look at all these costs that have come from inspections because I know that, or actually no, that's only accounts for such a small part, it might be something else, and also helps us work out what that something else might be, which kind of, particularly with data and any kind of analysis of it, if the detail isn't in there, you can't analyze it, you can't know, otherwise you've got to do a very manual thing, and it takes that manual nature out of providing improved analysis.
It's all about making informed decisions, after all, right?
Yeah, and one of the worst things for any finance function is to be, it doesn't matter if you're doing great work if you're isolated from the rest of the business. So you've got to be providing feedback which actually means something to other people. So we wouldn't necessarily work out exactly why something's increased, but we'd be able to ask the right questions because we'd be able to see what it was that was driving that cost increase.
Okay, to that point, could you maybe give me an example of a process that improved ever since using financials?
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, the big one for us was immediately the procurement policy, and make it. And as I said, we've got this paper document, or Word document, that says this is what you're supposed to do, and now it actually definitely happens in practice. And when we were installing Access, and talking to people about what we were doing, they were saying that a few things came up where, oh, it probably wasn't always happening perfectly. So that process was a massive one for us. I think the intercompany reconciliations is another process which just works so much better because of the flexibility of pulling numbers down and filtering them in financials. We can very quickly itemize out all the intercompany transactions across all the companies and list them against each other, and it's made it very quick and easy to do intercompany recs, which were taking a lot longer. The bank reconciliations again is working quite well because what happens is we're uploading the bank statements, and we can generate the bank postings from there. So we could make sure we control bank reconciliations were clearly happening and working previously, but someone was having to do the bank rec, tick them off on a statement, go in and enter some postings, and then go and look at it again. Whereas now it's far more kind of controlled within the system. You go in, I've got these 4 postings I didn't know about. I'll raise a posting for all of those. So I think that's working better as well.
Yeah, that sounds like it improved efficiency as well as gave you some time back to put towards other tasks that are also important.
There are plenty of other tasks that would like the time that we saved, yes.
Yeah. David, I'm assuming that over time you've also had the chance to try out other solutions outside of financials. So to that end, I wanted to ask you, what do you like most about financials compared to other solutions?
Do you mean previous version of the previous account software we used, or because I mean I think when we changed to Access, we were coming from a quite entry level piece of software, which was fine for what it is. Did what it's supposed to do perfectly well when you're a small business starting up, but we'd clearly outgrown it. So when we were in there were plenty of things that we just couldn't really make work well in there. I mean, it's quite useful for us to record the costs against the home that they relate to, because then it enables all sorts of reporting, how much more does it cost to maintain a 3-bedroom home to a 2-bedroom home, for instance, which is actually quite a useful thing to know, particularly when you're building new developments and you've got to work out what the ongoing cash flows are as part of your appraisal. So it's enabled us to do that, and that's something we couldn't do in the previous one. We had to rely on plain text fields in the old system, which, and then someone types it slightly differently and it doesn't work, and it doesn't come in properly. Whereas now, because we've got effectively we're using the project codes to represent the home, it means that we've got a very accurate, and with no trouble at all. You download the numbers, you sort by there's a lookup table in Excel that says it's a 2 or 3-bedroom, and I appreciate that I could probably even shortcut that by adding elements to the project which says how many bedrooms the home is, which is another stage which we might get to later on. But it's enabled kind of analysis like that because we're just recording the detail in a format far closer to the detail which we actually need. So it's definitely allowed that we couldn't do before.
Yeah, it sounds like having a solution that is able to scale with your growth in real time is something that really plays a big part, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I mean, we definitely have got growth in mind. We obviously we're limited by the availability of property and the ability to fund it, but we're building properties, or we've got a new one coming up, and more after that we're going to be adding, and we will definitely need within those the ability to grow, to add the new ones, and to always add extra things. And it's worth saying as well that the other thing compared to the previous solution that's been helpful is the ability to record costs better by project. And whilst it did it on the other system, the reporting of it was very weak. Only we in finance could get into the finance system and get the data out, so we had to download it and play around with it, and then we send it to people, and then it wasn't linked against the budget, so we had to kind of allocate it against any budgets that might happen. Whereas now, because we've got the project management module, and because we've got the ability to record costs against the projects, and we can put the budgets in as well, we actually have an ability where the members outside the finance department can go in here and self-serve their own information in terms of actuals against budgets.
That's good to know. Honestly, that sounds great. I also know that you have been involved with our UX team in order to give some recommendations for possible improvements in the future regarding our product financials. Would you be able to also give me a few of the ideas that you shared there in terms of any features that you would like to see added?
Yeah, no, that was great, because where we are, so we've got, as I said, a development team and some of our projects, this is we don't quite have the cost of the building of these estates in there, but certainly all the professional fees in terms of making it happen. So there's quite a lot of cost and detail going through, and these are areas that need quite strong amounts of control. So within the system, we've used the system, and as we've done it, there are bits and pieces. The development team, because they're accessing it directly, are coming to us and saying, this is great, but what I'd really like is I would really like to be able to show the reporting by a cost code, but then by supplier on the cost code, and to show me on that how much has actually been allocated to them. And so showing it by supplier was a thing that the development team quite wanted. There are bits and pieces in terms of just slightly bit easier linking through to the orders from the project management report, which just would be helpful to us in terms of in real life when you're using it, when the development team are actually using it. It's incredibly useful if they can look at their project, see if there's a cost. Oh, I wonder what that is. I'll click on it, and it works well enough for the invoices. But they also go back to their purchase order, because as they say, sometimes they put a bit more detail in the purchase order that'd be quite useful for them to look at. So that's what they. So again, that's another thing they asked for, and I think there was a few others. And it was just nice to have an ability to hopefully influence the way it's going forward to give feedback of what's required in the real world. I think maybe our concept of projects isn't going to be exactly the same as every other user you've got, because of the kind of industry we're in. So it's quite useful to, I think, kind of feedback with specific things that might not matter to anyone else, but would be useful to anyone else doing the same thing as us. So if we can get some of those coming through, it'll be great, and it'll just make our experience of using it better. I'm really glad to have had the opportunity.
Yeah, honestly, feedback from real life use is very much valuable to us. Thank you very much for sharing all of your insights. It's been
Yeah,
wonderful
no,
to hear your thoughts.
it's really good to have the opportunity. As I said, all we want is, we've got it here, and the things, there are things we say, oh, it'd be even better if it did this, but normally you just put up with it and say, okay, well, it is this is where we are, and actually to be able to kind of have a chance to influence it and maybe get it even closer to our, perfect product is great.
I mean, in real life, this is how you stir change, right? By just the smallest influence. Sometimes it catches on bigger waves.
Yeah, and they'll obviously incorporate the ideas of other people as well, and that will, and between listening to everyone, they'll start getting. I'm sure they'll get a very strong sense of which things are useful for the majority of people.
Thank you so much, David. I really hope that we get to foster and upkeep the benefits that you are currently getting from our software. And that would be it. Cut.